The story starts in a small village where everyone knows each other. Ifeoma, a beautiful young woman, lives there with her stepmother Ngozi, who is in charge of everything in her life. Ifeoma feels like she has no freedom because her stepmother always tells her what to do. What Ifeoma really wants is to get married for love, not because she has to. Ngozi, her stepmother, is a powerful woman in the village. She controls Ifeoma's life and already has a plan for her future. Ngozi has chosen Uche, a rich but arrogant man, to marry Ifeoma. She believes that marrying Uche will give them both more money and status. But Ifeoma has a secret. She's in love with Chijioke, a kind and hard-working man she has known since childhood. He may not be rich, but Ifeoma loves him for who he is. Sadly, she feels stuck because of her stepmother's control and doesn't feel like she can choose her own path. Ifeoma is stuck between what she wants and what her stepmother wants. She feels a lot of pressure to make her stepmother happy, so she agrees to meet Uche, the man her stepmother has chosen for her. Uche is rich and comes from a well-known family, but Ifeoma doesn't like him at all. He seems full of himself and only cares about money and status, which turns Ifeoma off. Seeing how unhappy Ifeoma is, Chijioke offers her an escape. He tells her they can run away together and live a simple life, just the two of them. But Ifeoma is torn. She feels guilty about leaving her family and breaking the expectations of society. She knows her family and the village would disapprove, so she hesitates. Even though she loves Chijioke, Ifeoma feels trapped. She finally agrees to marry Uche, not because she wants to, but because she feels she has no choice. She feels helpless, like she has no control over her own life. As the wedding day gets closer, the pressure on Ifeoma builds up. The preparations are non-stop. She has to pick a wedding dress, decide on decorations, and plan the ceremony. But none of this excites her. She feels trapped and suffocated. Everything is happening because her stepmother, Ngozi, wants it. Ifeoma doesn't feel like she's making any of the decisions. It's all about what other people expect from her. Uche's behavior doesn't help. The more the wedding draws near, the more arrogant he becomes. He laughs at Ifeoma's reluctance and tells her that he's rich, so she should be grateful that he wants to marry her. He makes it clear he feels entitled to her just because of his money. He doesn't care about Ifeoma's feelings at all, and this makes her feel even worse. It's like she has no control over anything. Just when Ifeoma feels like she can't take it anymore, Chijioke shows up at her house the day before the wedding. He looks at her and says, "Ifeoma, you don't have to marry him if you don't want to. We can leave together and start a life on our own. It doesn't matter if we have money or not. I'll always be there for you." His words give Ifeoma a glimmer of hope. For a moment she wonders if she could really escape this life and live on her own terms, with someone who loves her. But then Ifeoma starts to feel torn. She loves Chijioke, but she also feels responsible for her family. She doesn't want to disappoint her stepmother or let her family down. There's so much to think about, and she doesn't know what to do. That night, she lies awake, struggling with her decision. Should she follow her heart and run away with Chijioke? Or should she go through with the marriage and make her family happy? The choice feels impossible, and Ifeoma doesn't know what her future holds. The big day finally comes, the day of Ifeoma's wedding. She walks down the aisle, but her heart feels heavy. Everything around her looks perfect. But deep down, Ifeoma knows she's not ready to marry Uche. As she stands there, waiting for the ceremony to begin, something inside her snaps. She can't go through with it. The pressure from her stepmother has been too much. In front of everyone, her stepmother, Uche, and all the villagers, she suddenly announces, "I can't marry him. I won't." The room falls silent. Ifeoma's words hang in the air, and for a moment, no one knows how to react. Her stepmother, Ngozi, is furious. She can't believe her daughter is doing this. She shouts at Ifeoma, demanding to know what has gotten into her. Uche, too, is humiliated. He never expected Ifeoma to back out, especially not in front of everyone. He's angry and embarrassed, but Ifeoma doesn't care anymore. Finally, Ifeoma finds the courage to speak her truth. She looks at the people around her and says, I can't marry for money or status. I need to marry for love. I love Chijioke, and I will not settle for anything less. Her voice shakes, but it's clear and strong. It's the first time she has ever spoken up for herself. Just then, Chijioke walks into the room. He stands beside Ifeoma, showing that he supports her no matter what. His presence is like a breath of fresh air, and it signals a huge change in Ifeoma's life. For the first time, she is choosing her own happiness. She is no longer letting anyone else decide for her. After Ifeoma speaks her truth, she turns to her stepmother, Ngozi, and says, "I won't let you control me anymore. My happiness is more important than your desire for wealth and status." Ngozi tries to guilt her, saying things like, "You'll regret this," and "You're ruining everything." But Ifeoma is done listening. She stands strong and doesn't let her stepmother's words affect her. She knows that she has to do what's best for her. Uche, still angry and humiliated by what happened, realizes that Ifeoma was never the right woman for him. He thought she was just a prize to win, but now he sees that she's not someone he can control. He storms out of the wedding, and soon, the gossip begins to spread around the village. People whisper about the scandal, but Ifeoma doesn't care. She knows she made the right choice. With her stepmother's anger hanging over her, Ifeoma decides it's time to leave her family home. She knows it won't be easy, but she's ready to start a new life with Chijioke. They make a plan to live together and work hard to build their future, no matter how tough things might get. They're not worried about wealth or status. They have each other, and that's enough. Ifeoma begins a new life with Chijioke. They start a small business together, finding happiness in each other's company despite the challenges. Ifeoma has grown from a girl controlled by her stepmother to a woman who chooses her own path. She now lives a life of love, respect, and freedom, no longer bound by others' expectations. The story ends with a reminder that true happiness comes from following your heart, not seeking wealth or status. It's about living on your own terms.